please put your hands together and help me give a warm welcome to our host, Katie Ross.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for choosing to be here today or for choosing to watch this at some point later on the internet to learn about life after Full Sail. This is obviously a very important topic. And I am honored to be up here to be with such a great panel of grads who are doing amazing things in the industry, and we can spend this next hour together just sharing some gems with all of you to help you prepare for life after Full Sail. So we're going to go ahead and dive right on in with my first question, really kind of talking about the learning experience that they had as students. And I'd like to hear from all of you on, how do you think your learning experience, the knowledge you gained from your courses, played a role in your development as a student and preparing to be a professional in the industry?
You want any intros as well, or not?
No.
Okay.
You can just dive on in wherever you want to go, yeah.
So I guess I could start. So I worked in the games industry, so I did the game development degree here, and you kind of assume going into it that, I'm going to make games, which means I'm going to be a gameplay programmer or maybe rendering or something, right? But one of the classes that stood out to me was we had an advanced tooling class, and so we were making plugins for Maya in one class. We were building other tools that then help you make the game. And that kind of struck a chord with me, there's a bunch of stuff around the game that needs to get done too. And I bet I ended up doing that. And that's exactly what ended up happening. I made middleware stuff to help do online features for games, and then made that a big part of my career going forward. So it helped me notice that there's more to making the product than just the more obvious part of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I started out from the music side. We were doing a lot of projects by ourselves, trying to figure out everything ourselves. How do you make great guitar sounds, drum sounds, make successful songs, video productions. But there came a time when you hit plateau, and then there was no growth after that. And that's when, I was seeking out institutes, and Full Sail came up. And what I really found is something that we know. And especially in the world of today, where you think you can do a lot of DIY and learn everything by yourself, but there's something very important about having a mentor and a trainer and a teacher who's been there before. And that's what Full Sail really did for me, where it validated some of the things that we were doing by ourselves. So it was a great stepping stone into the industry to get a great glimpse up close into the industry, up close. And I used to live at Full Sail Live that time. That was at Bennett. And I learned so much over there. And I was 50% a live sound guy at that time and a 50% studio guy. I used to live at Full Sail Live. And they were kind enough to, I shouldn't say actually what all I did. but it's unparalleled. And I'm very much for do some things yourself, but be in a place where which is specially crafted for learning and developing your craft. So I really, really benefited from that.
I'm in the film industry, so when I went through the film program here, I think what it did for me was give me the foundation, the dialogue, the technical expertise, not expertise, but technical skills working with cameras, film cameras, lighting. And just when I got onto an actual set, I knew what was what. I kind of knew when somebody said, if a grip asked for some particular piece of equipment, I would know what that was. So I think it gave me the kind of a basis or foundation to work on from, and then decide, I knew I was going to go into camera, but, working in set design or set building and the lighting and things like that, I think it just kind of gave me the, the working knowledge or basics to start out and be an entry-level, film person.
Yeah, so my career path was a bit non-traditional. I think I might be the most recent grad on the panel here at 2018. And so after spending about 20 years of my career, I decided to come back to school. And I went online, media communications program. And I would say my approach, and the thing that I think that was most impactful to me, was the freedom and flexibility that I had within the media communications program to utilize the portfolio class as a starting point for me to create what I love to do, which is help people tell their stories. And so I used the program, every single portfolio project and every single program was in service of what I am doing today. So you really can have an idea and create an idea and utilize the program in service of your dream and bring that to a reality. And that's what I've done. And being a recent grad, I know those portfolios and classes and things that you guys have, you can be, I would just encourage you that you can be purposeful in your education, and Full Sail is actually really great at helping you do that.
Yeah, for me, Full Sail really did two kind of big things for me. It gave me an environment where I realized there were other people that actually wanted to do the same things that I wanted to do. And not being around that before, you just kind of feel weird or whatever. And then you get around all the other weird people and you realize you're not really that weird, or maybe you are and it doesn't matter. But also, I wanted to be a music engineer when I came here, and I took the audio post class, and it changed everything. And now I've been in the industry for almost 19 years, because of that one class. So.
Wow. I think also it's interesting to hear each of you mention kind of a component where you learned a lot from each one of your courses. And so that way, when you were new into your industry and you were asked to do something that maybe wasn't directly what you wanted, the long-term plan, you still had that basic knowledge to be able to go into that area and do a good job, and then someone recognize that and then be able to continue to move forward. So what are some behaviors you think that students can develop now, work on now in this risk-free environment as students to be prepared for graduation and life after?
I take chances, go out there and just do. Don't worry about anything, you just do it and work with your classmates, cross over to other, if you're in film, and just talk to people in audio or animation or whatever, and just kind of deal with everybody, because it's like you're not going to get this much resources in such a concentrated environment, I think.
Yeah, and I'll add to that and piggyback on what he's saying. Establishing a human connection while you're here is important. I feel like all of us are getting lots of technical knowledge and skills that are industry standard and prepare us to go into our futures. But making sure that we pay attention to establishing those human connections with each other, because oftentimes as you launch out, you will have to make a human connection in order to get your first opportunity. It's not just going to be based on your technical aptitude. So many of you will graduate and have the same technical aptitudes. Some will be better than others. And your ability to establish like a real human connection is what will land you possibly your first opportunity. It will definitely influence it.
Yeah, I think there's a great opportunity to develop your soft skills and hard skills. So of course you're here to develop your main skill sets, whatever they may be, but it's very important to have very good soft skill sets. That means how you are as a person. Do you get along with other people in a team? And that's going to be very important either when you're applying for something or when you land up a good position to sustain and be around in a place, because people want to be with people they can work with, hang out with. And of course it is going to be understood by that point that you are really good at what you do. So this is a great place to build relationships, build your network, because your next gig could come through a friend before you, after you, or somebody from here, because Full Sail produces great, like lovely people. So it would be not just smart. I think it's just nice to, and that's why you're coming here. It's education and beyond actually, and that's like a life education.
Yeah, I'd say prioritize your time. Like that's what you got to learn to do. So have fun, socialize like you're here at school, right? Make the most of having fun with people. But when you're working, be working, right? Try and collaborate with other people on a project together, and like you're trying to deliver that together. And then go have fun at the end of the day. Learning to prioritize what's the most important thing to be doing right now and trying to do that.
Yeah, but you can. It's up to you to go the extra mile. It's like doing any job. You'll do only what you're asked to do, or then you can go the extra mile. And there's an opportunity to make a name and a place for yourself while you're still at school. So it's up to you. You don't wait for what the school is going to do for you. It's like what you're going to do for yourself and the school. Because I know there were a few of us who, we were in the recording arts program, but we loved filmmaking and we loved doing live sound. And like I said, we used to just live at the live sound facility all the time. And it wasn't even asked of us. We were not getting extra credits for it. But let me tell you, before we graduated, like few of us had 3, 4 jobs in our hand, which were paid jobs. Because that's the impact we made while we were still in school. So there's a lot what you can do. So like what we say, the more philosophical way is that you write the story of your life. Don't let anybody else. How can you give that opportunity to someone else? And if you're in command, then you go and write what you want to write. You can leave it blank too. It's your choice.
Yeah, the idea, right, of soft skills and hard skills, right? They're the perfect blend. I think sometimes we see them as two separate things, and we hear a lot about them for everyone who's reading educational journals like I am. I'm sure everyone does that every day, right? But when the soft skills, it is the time management, is the collaboration, it's the communication. But when you are working with your peers on special projects and you're meeting if you're a recording arts student, but you're working with someone from computer animation, that's that collaboration, right? That flexing of the soft skill that you don't learn in a textbook or anywhere. You just learn through the journey of life when you're writing out that story in your book. So, when we go to graduate, when we think about graduating, sometimes, and rightfully so, we dream about what that future is going to look like. We put that out there. But when we get out there and we walk across the stage, that dream doesn't happen right away, right? It takes a little bit of time. It takes a lot of hard work. So what should new grads expect when they walk across that stage? What does life after Full Sail really look like shortly after graduation?
I think by the time you walk across the stage, you should already know what it's going to look like in some form or another, because you should be prepping ahead of time for that. And whether it is having a job already or knowing that you're going to go somewhere and find an internship or whatever it is, if you're walking across the stage going, what now, then I think you missed out on a lot of time to prepare. And maybe critical time, so make sure that you're starting to plan ahead of time.
Yeah, because if you already know what you want to do, then you can take those jobs that are coming that might help you advance your career, or even sometimes they'll take you on a different path, but you still need to have some kind of direction where you want to go, and sometimes you'll take a left turn, but you need to have a kind of a game plan, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I think your career, be prepared for peaks and valleys in your career is one piece of advice I would give you. When you exit school, you're going to have access to the global marketplace. Now job search is available everywhere. There's 20 million jobs on LinkedIn right now. You are capable to apply anywhere. Being able to sort through your mind and filter through which opportunities you'd like to apply for that really line up with your value set and your skill set is important. And then be able to communicate who you are verbally and in person, right? I really am fascinated by all of the applications that go out and then land in a filtering system. And we're just pressing the button. It's so easy to apply. But what isn't easy is to really nail that interview. So be ready to communicate your greatest values. When you make that human connection is really important. And I think that makes a big difference.
Oh, I agree, yeah. I managed to land my job before I graduated, so that made it pretty easy, right? But like you guys were saying, having that plan, I knew what I was trying to do. But even if I didn't have it, I knew, okay, I'm going to move here. I'm going to try and apply to this kind of thing. This is the kind of job I'm looking for. So I would have had that as my backup, right? Knowing what it would have looked like, not just being, now what? Where am I going to live? What am I going to go do? So.
Yeah, so I think it's good to plan, and your plans can change.
Yep.
But if you make some plans, at least you get into the habit of start planning out, then leaving everything to chance. So if you plan out at your career, Be ready to like evolve it and change when an opportunity comes or something's changed or the situation changes. But I think it's just about, I think like everybody said, if you start making some kind of a plan, I think it's good. It's a good habit to make plans.
Yeah, people think things get set in stone. Oh, I made this decision, so I've got to stick with it. No, you don't. You can change it.
Yeah.
But by having that plan in the first place, you know what the impact of making that change. Right? If you're just blindly doing stuff, you don't know where it's going to end up, basically.
It's like practice. The more you do it, the better you will get at it.
And there's an entire department here dedicated to helping you do that preparation. You need to make sure you communicate, with them before graduation. I don't remember what the time frame is now, 2 months or something out before graduation?
3 months.
3 months?
But really, they have open door days that you can go in there whenever and take advantage and start working on your resume. If you are nervous about interviewing, right? You could start practicing those interviewing skills right away.
Yep. It's the whole reason that they're here, is to help you get a job. So take advantage of that.
So am I really sitting on a panel with no one who slept on a couch after graduation? No? Slept in a car? No? Ramen noodles? No?
Made it work.
Wow, all right. That's really impressive. That's really impressive. I love hearing that. So, Stan, you mentioned a little bit, and this is an all-play question, but I do think it's important. You talked about those peaks and valleys, because realistically, after graduation, yes, some of us will have a job lined up before we even walk across the stage, but some of us won't whatsoever. And even if we do, I think Brett Novak talks about he had a job right after graduation and then took a different turn after a while. So what do we do? Have you guys ever had any setbacks? That peak moment, and what did you guys do as professionals?
So, I've been hired, fired, laid off, let go, rehired, promoted in my career. When you're at a peak, you feel like you're at an all-time high. And in my career, I tended to relax on my preparation, and you get complacent. So don't allow yourselves to slip into complacency if you're on a streak of like what you might consider good luck. Always be preparing for the next thing. If you're like me, I was caught off guard, and I spent 11 months of my life, and this was years ago, looking for a job, and ended up finding something that was different than what I had ever done before. And so you will come back if you are in a valley. Every single valley has a peak coming soon. So as long as you're willing to prepare yourself and continue to press in to your goals, you'll make it. And I would encourage each one of you. Careers aren't linear.
Right.
They do have peaks and valleys, and you should expect that. It's not going to go perfect. And so that would be my advice in that area.
Yeah, I guess you got to be ready for, I think there's something they teach in Scouts. It's called be prepared. And there's a lovely line I read somewhere which said, life is not what did it say? It's not what happens to you, but it's how you handle it. So I remember that I started early on my entrepreneurial journey, and I thought that we have this beautiful plan and that we're going to take that off. So while we were getting well settled in the industry, we started what we call version 1.0, and it tanked. So we shut it down. A few years later, then we said, okay, we'll try it again. And we did it again, and we shut it down. And then now what we are in is what we call version 3.0, and it's taken off. So what's happened that during the last decade, there was nothing wrong with the plan. There was nothing wrong with the environment. What needed to happen is that we needed to plan and prepare ourselves for the innings that we were getting set up for. So you have to find out, at least this is from my experience, is that how keen you are to stay relevant with your times, with your skill set, and what your goals are. And then you have to actively be at it all the time to make it work. So, so it's been an interesting journey. But you have to keep preparing yourself and keep not just being relevant, but I think you should really enjoy what you're doing, and that's why you're here. I think like Frank said, that now you've come to a place where everybody's come to do the same thing. And I remember when I was coming from the city in India called Pune, and we were like one or two guys, and who were interested in pursuing this as a full-time career. And we thought in some way we were special, because nobody knows about this, nobody wants to do this. So But then you come here and then there's like everybody's come here to do the same thing. So that was like a culture shock. And then you have to stay on top of your game, and then you have to stay noticed. You have to be noticed. So make a place for yourself. Life after Full Sail, of course, is going to be different for different people, but it depends. I know some friends who are like go-getters. So they define their job. They know where they're going to go, and they will not take no for an answer. Whether today or tomorrow or day after, they will land themselves that job. So it depends on you. During your school, you make your plans. You know where you want to be, and then by the time you leave, your job is to get that job. So I remember that the school does not prepare you to become a master, but the school prepares you to become a great apprentice, so that you can be a great mentee with like a lovely mentor.
How has mentorship played a role in your guys' career?
Well, for me, if I had to name like my biggest mentor, I think it was a gentleman that I worked with in my first job. His name was Buster Pulley, and Buster was the like house engineer. Like he fixed everything and built the rooms and all that stuff. And I would call him my mentor because I learned so much stuff from that guy. Just like spending time, helping him out, run wires or whatever, and it expanded my knowledge base. I'm not saying I'm an expert in any of these things, but to the point where when that company shut down and I opened my own place, I was able to do these things that I needed to do, So having a mentor is super important, but not only for the technical side, right? Other people are like mentors for just like you as a person, and when you go through those valleys, having that person that understands the industry, understands what you're doing, and can relate is going to be massive. They give you advice and let you be angry for a short period of time or sad or whatever, and then kick you in the butt to get up and move on.
Yeah, I think, and I would echo those comments in saying like what you were saying. I think I heard was like diversity in mentorship.
Yes.
Like there are a lot of different types of mentorship or mentoring relationships, and I can speak for myself. And sometimes I'm being mentored by very successful entrepreneurs, and I am gleaning what I need from them, but I am also gifting them what I have to offer and asking them what problems they have that I can solve. There are areas in my life right now that I'm being mentored in, that like in areas of social media and some of the things that I need to be great at that I am maybe not so great at. And I'm relying on the diversity that exists even in this room to help me. So I don't think any of us, and I know I speak for myself on this, is I'm always looking for mentors in all forms in my career, and always trying to be willing to be a mentor when I see a problem I think I can solve.
And mentors also, they'll sometimes point you in directions you never even thought of. I know when I've mentored students, that sometimes they'll talk about a problem and I say, well, what about this? What about that? Why did I try that? Go to this place or that place. And so sometimes they can steer you in a direction that can help answer the questions you have, even if they don't have the answers for you. They can tell you where to go and how to maybe get a job. I know like a lot of students that have come to me that say they want to go into camera, I usually tell them, go to a rental house, camera rental house, because that's a good place to start, a good place to get in the network and learn cameras while you're getting paid, sometimes as a full-time employee, and then eventually the camera rental house wants you to get out of the house and get on set. So, things like that.
I've had different mentors at different times of my life, and I cannot tell you the importance and the value a mentor can bring to your life, not just to your skill sets, as been said, it's also to life as a whole. You get to see how people interact with people, how they're with other people. There's some people who are not good with other people, some people who are really precious with other people. So you start defining who you are, and at different times you can have different mentors. I know the two significant mentors that I've had in my life. One was when I was just starting out in India, and a wonderful gentleman with whom I'm associated till today. Over 25 years, we have a professional and personal relationship now. And we've done pretty much, I think, most significant projects together. And he threw me into a lot of spots. He trusted me in so many aspects that I didn't know that I could, that I was capable of, like pulling off some things. It could be a job, it could be a skill set, it could be a project. And the fact that he would put me in this situation from his perspective meant that I could pull it off. And it was my job to just believe that, and I started believing it myself much more than that. Same happened with my second mentor, the US, whom I met at Full Sail. And of course, validation is one thing, but there's no education than watching some master at work. There really isn't, at least for me. I think what I have learned and what I have then built up from there, I think that's a gift. So a mentor is, I think, very, very significant to help shape our careers with our skill sets and beyond.
Yeah, I've slightly different answer for me, I guess, because I've mostly worked at big companies. I've never really had an official mentor or anything like that, but there were definitely people that I looked up to, and I thought, oh, they're doing similar to what you're saying, like they're doing a great job. How are they doing that? Like trying to emulate and learn from them just by asking them questions and things like that, but without having like this regular check-in time or anything like that. But now that I've been doing it a while for myself, I'm being put in situations, and I officially am mentoring people at work. So I'm trying to do a good job of that. And if you do work at a big company, you end up with a manager. And I've had crappy managers, I've had really, really good managers. So try and, when you've got a good one, try and make the most of that. You'll end up having like one-on-one time, for instance, just to talk about how things are going. So don't just sit there and expect them to run your career for you. So, oh, you should do this next. And you should do that. No, you should be thinking about, what are my questions? What do I want to learn out of this conversation? And how's that going to steer me to whatever the next thing is? So,
Yeah, I think, right, that mentor, it can be someone that you have to sit down 1-hour conversations with, where you're asking these very pointed questions. You come in prepared to get that insight. And then it can also be what we've heard too, just someone that you watch and you see how they do things, and you understand how that resonates with other people, and you carry those traits on with you. So for all of you, I'm sure you've been in positions where you've been able to hire or work with people who are hiring. So what are you looking for in a recent grad when you're hiring for someone? What type of things do you think they should have when they come to you guys, or when they're applying for positions?
They need to have a great attitude. Like, do not be a jerk.
Yeah.
Hashtag don't be a jerk.
Have a great attitude, solid communication skills, both written, and I mean written like now you don't actually write anything, you type it out, right? So spell things correctly and use punctuation, and know how to have a face-to-face conversation with somebody, especially if you're going to be working directly with clients. Super important to be able to understand how to take direction and get the job done. And really, in my opinion, those two things are the most important, the attitude and communication, because we already know you went to Full Sail, you're learning the right stuff. Like, we went here too, so we understand that. It's more, can we spend all day in a studio with you, or on a set with you, or in a tour bus for 3 months, or whatever it is that you want to do, You need to be a good person.
I agree, and I think for me it's, in addition to what Frank just mentioned here, it's capacity and capabilities. I think I look for people who have a capacity to learn and a strong desire to learn, realizing that we all start somewhere. I like to invest in people, and I want to be around people that want to be invested in. So that's one of my sort of criterias that I look at when I hire.
Yeah, be willing to learn, be available. I know when I'm on set with, last thing we always want to hear is, we're waiting on camera or something like that, and then, a PA or whatever, or whoever might be working for me might be off, like looking for their next job kind of thing. So, be available, be ready to work. And when you're on the job, you're on the job. You're not necessarily looking, At lunchtime, you can go and look for your other job, but when you're on set, you're working with me, and I expect you to be there.
Yes, so for me and for our company, likability is right on top. Got to be very likable, okay, and then of course to be good at what you do, but also be contributive, because if you're coming in, you're going to add some value. It could be any kind of value, it could be with some new trends that because you're hungry right now, that somebody who's working and is very established might not know what's happening on the grassroots level, and you are coming from that perspective, so you can give a great perspective on what it is like from your perspective, from your eyes. So definitely I would look at someone who can also contribute. Intern does not mean just do everything that you're asked to do, but also to add value in. So likability and adding value to what we do.
To go more on a different direction, I'd say that whether it's senior or new grad, I'm generally looking for someone that can be flexible and keep learning and learn quickly. So you're in school and you're going through an accelerated program, so you can demonstrate that pretty easily, hopefully. But have you done more than just one thing? Normally, I'm not hiring for an expert in one thing. Like if making a game, maybe I need someone to do rendering, but they need to be able to do more than just that, because I might need some other problem in the audio part of the code. Like, can you figure that out too? So yeah, being able to be flexible and to learn quickly and adapt and be willing to do that, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so those are some of those things that you can't necessarily make come alive on a resume, or in a reel you kind of can. Like you can show the different skills in a reel or in a portfolio too, which is what I think is, as well, is so beautiful about the portfolio courses. But for the likability, being a kind person, being adaptive, how can students showcase that skills? Is it having a strong presence on some sort of social media? Is it blogging? Is it what can they do to showcase those important skills?
I think some will happen only through your relationship. So instead of writing on a resume that I get the job done, but in the first month when you come in and you hang out with someone and you're in the company and actually you get the job done, so some things will have to play itself out. I don't think you can add everything on the resume. It might come across as cheesy also, even though it's true. But I think it's best that your skill set is to get in the door, and then you prove your worth. So I don't think everything should be. And I know even when we bring on artists into our company, we never look at any social media account. Okay, we don't look at Facebook, nothing. We sit across with them for 5 minutes and we get to know whether we are going to work with them or not. And then our job collectively is to make sure that they get everything they need to get from their social media account to all their followers to everything. So we're not looking for, so the converse is for us. I'd rather have somebody just hang out a little bit, we'll get to know. And just, and then when you prove your mettle when you work, and then just make it work.
I try to meet them. I try to, sit down over coffee if they're in, Los Angeles or whatever. I try to meet with them, sit down with them, kind of get a feel for how they are in a, public social setting. Sometimes I'll invite them onto set, see how they, how they react and how they behave on a set, even though they're not being, they're not working. But it's just a good idea to just kind of get an idea of how they, just how they work and come onto the set and how they compose themselves.
That's good. I think for me, it's curiosity. I love to interact with people and see how curious they are. They ask really good questions, and they care about me and my problems more sometimes than I feel like they care about their own objectives. That is a really good quality. I think, as we work on projects with our teams, we have objectives, and if someone cares about those objectives, that's an immediate signal that you could maybe work on a team. And if you're asking questions about what the objectives and what the problems are, I think that's one thing that I look for, and is always a very positive indicator when I meet with students, for sure.
I think the easy way to show that stuff, unfortunately, takes a while. And that is through your networking. And when I say networking, I don't mean going to an event and handing out business cards. I mean, creating relationships with people that are in the industry where you want to be, right? Actually having a friendship with them that's developed over time naturally, not forcing them, hey, can you hire me or whatever. And through the time of spending time with them, whether it's at events or coffee or lunch or whatever, they will know that you can communicate and that you're a nice person and that, whatever. And that makes it easier because a lot of the time, the people that get hired is somebody that knows the person doing the hiring.
Right.
So
I do a lot of phone screens for Facebook. So they've already passed the first test. Like the resume is good enough, the technical details there that they've got through the recruitment, and so they've given them to me now to go speak to them. So I've now got like 45 minutes to, is this person, like, can they live up to the things they've written down? Like, is this true? And do they sound like a jerk or not? And do I think they're going to, not only are they good and like they could do a good job, but is Facebook the right place for them and can we do a good job for them? So yeah, having, and what you can do for that, I guess, is to prepare for it. Right? What are the typical questions you think you're going to get that people are going to ask you? Like, do you actually know the stuff that's on your resume? If you put, oh, I know this, C++, yeah, sure. Well, I might ask you a question about that. Are you going to be able to answer it? Because if you can't, you shouldn't be on there. So yeah, it's being honest about that. If you're lying on that stage, then there's no chance.
So once everyone lands a job, which is definitely going to happen, what advice do you have to help them kind of level up? Right, they get the job, they maybe have a mentor, they're seeking insight. At this point, they're away from the classroom, so they don't have as much time to develop their portfolio in those pieces. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. I'm sure everyone up here would be like, yes, you should keep developing those skills. How can they level up and prepare for the next position?
So once they've got a job, how do they get the next one?
Yeah. Way to break it down.
I mean, I've changed a bunch. So it's what are you going to get out of the next job? Like, what do you want to do next? So I went into games. I was there a long time. I was actually joined EA. I thought, I'm going to join this for a year. The company's got a kind of a bad rap, so I don't want to be there forever. But they're obviously doing a good job. They're shipping these AAA games. I like playing them, so they're doing something right. So let me go there, learn everything they do, then I can go somewhere else to maybe do my own thing. Turns out it was actually pretty awesome, so I ended up staying for a long time because we were making these amazing products and a great team, that kind of thing. So, but even during that, I was changing what I was doing because I kept expanding where I was covering. So I started out as an engineer on certain pieces of technology, but then they kept adding more different features to it and more different SDKs I had to manage. So then it was like helping all the game teams use it. That was great. Now I'm working on all these different games at the same time. Then it was, sometimes we're having problems when we're launching because the marketing team said one thing and the game team's done another thing and the QA hasn't tested it. So now it's like organizing the whole company around a particular product. So it's just like expanding my coverage of what I was doing over time and just seeing what the company's problems are and what I can maybe do to help that.
That's a really good question. I believe that taking control of your career is super important. Being responsible for your own personal development inside and outside of your job is something that I would recommend highly that you do. Always be planning for what you desire to learn and what you are aiming for next. And do not rely on people to get you where you are going. I mean, you will have mentors that will help you, but you shouldn't overly, rely on your network to get you where you're going. Ultimately, someone's going to help you. You're going to have people around you that want to invest in you, and that's great. But don't slip into complacency. Always be thinking about the development. What do you need to learn to get to where you would desire to go? And most of the time, that is going to be in service of other people and other teams. So think about the people you want to help and the problems that exist, and focus on getting good at solving problems.
I would add to that early on, I think it's really important to make them think that you're indisposable at your current position, because maybe your next job is in the same company. It's just a different department or higher up in the same department, right? So if you're doing your job quality, listing is like, this is what you're responsible for. If you're doing all that and other things, they're gonna be like, they're going to get used to it. And they're not going to be like, okay, we can't get rid of him or her.
It's like, it's trust.
It creates job security
Yeah,
and
it's
trust.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, we know that, Frank can handle this amount of work because he's already doing it. So let's move him up to this,
I had a slightly different pivot on that. Coming from the technical point of view, I'm always trying to work myself out of a job. Because then I can go to the next thing in the same company. Now, this guy can get it done, right? He's could be another problem. And I'm doing it right now. I've pivoted into a new space. I've got no experience in it whatsoever, but they've seen I've done a good job elsewhere. I volunteered to come solve this other problem, and then they gave me something huge to work on. So, yeah, but being indispensable, but not necessarily at that same one thing, because you'll be stuck doing that one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take advantage of opportunities too. Like when I was on the set of Crimson Tide, I was shooting all the underwater effects, and I just kind of fell into that position because I started out as a PA on the set, and then I ended up operating. And one of the cameras that we used was a high-speed effects camera, and I thought that was kind of cool. And so I talked to the guy who happened to be the owner of the company, and we talked and we hit it off. And I worked with him after that job. I ended up working with him for like about 5 years, shooting all high-speed camera effects on different shows. And even though my ultimate goal was underwater, I took that opportunity to learn more about cinematography, learning more about lighting, and I consider that period my master's degree in cinematography. And then once that job ended, when it came time for me to move on, I felt I was a much better underwater cinematographer than I probably would have if I'd spent 5 years just kind of meandering around.
I know that I had to make myself very dependable and very reliable. So if there was any job that was entrusted to me, I would fulfill it, and then that's how you build your reputation, so that you would get recommended or be ready for it yourself to take on the next level of responsibility. And I knew we were going to set up our company soon enough, after a few years, after graduation. So I had to start preparing for that simultaneously, but had to make a reputation of excelling at your work, and being very dependable and reliable.
I think the theme I hear through all of this is the willingness to learn, no matter what the position was, saying yes to the opportunity. And I think about being a student too, and sometimes it's easy to maybe go in with this one idea in mind of what we want to go into, but being open-minded to in different classes to taking in different information, because it's those behaviors that they can practice now that all of you just spoke about as well, like not saying no to anything and just being open to what comes across the table. So with that being said, we're actually going to open up the floor for questions from all of you to see what else you would like to know about Life After Full Sail.
Hello. Okay. Hi, my name is Ria. I'm a music production major. I'm going to graduate soon, actually. And I just wanted to know how life was for all of you from the moment you graduated from Full Sail until the point you got into a point where you're satisfied with where you were. What were your challenges? How did you deal with them? And could you just speak about it in general? I would like to know, because I'm going to graduate soon.
Well, you're lucky because none of them ever slept on a couch or ate ramen noodles, so this is a great group to be asking.
I started out, I interned for a company here in Orlando, and that introduced me to, and I knew the guy, the underwater cinematographer. He was based in Ocala, but I ended up interning for this company here in Orlando, which then turned out they were friends with the guy in Ocala, which brought me an introduction to him, and then I ended up assisting him. And then from there, I moved out to LA, and then when I went to LA, it was like starting all over again. I didn't know anybody, I didn't have a network. So I just PA'd, and I just PA'd in a bunch of different jobs. And then the last PA job, when I said, I'm not gonna PA ever again, the job on Crimson Tide came, and I was on the water unit. And because of my background in the diving industry and working in dive operations, I ended up having more experience than the crew itself. So I ended up first starting out, loading cameras, and taking the cameras into the water and setting up the shots. And then the next thing I know, I'm doing all the light meter readings and doing everything the DP was supposed to be doing, but he didn't want to get in the water. So I ended up doing it all. And that's kind of, started it for me. And, but prior to that, I was, on a roller coaster ride, both financially and, sometimes I was flush with cash, sometimes I wasn't. But the main thing that I would probably say is that whenever I got paid on a job or any work that I did, I always paid myself first. And I put money into a savings account so that when there were those lean times, I had something to kind of fall back on.
Tom's an accountant. You should know that first. Certified accountant.
Hello. Can I just ask all of you to also give one piece of advice once you're done talking about how it can help me out in some way?
Help you?
I mean, what I'm trying to say is your challenges, how you dealt with them, and what I can expect. All of us, what can we expect, and how we can deal with them.
Just deal with them.
Yeah, I think you just have to be optimistic. Somehow you have to remain somewhat positive, not necessarily optimistic, but it's going to be tough sometimes. It's not always going to be a bed of roses. It's going to, but how you handle that and how you, have a network. Hopefully you have friends and family that you can rely on, even if they're thousands of miles away. You have people that can help you, a support group. If you're going to LA or whatever and you have a network of friends, use them. I had my brother who came out with me, and so the two of us, we'd have, he'd be doing great, I'd be doing crappy, and we would support each other, both emotionally, financially, whatever the case may be. And I did other jobs. I did other paying jobs. I had regular jobs where just to pay the bills in between, because, when you move to LA, if you don't know anybody or you don't have a network, like I didn't have anybody, I knew people, and I was knocking on doors and trying to get in and things like that. But on the other hand, I had to pay rent, I had to put food on my table, and so on and so forth. So I just, it started out sporadically, and then eventually it's like, oh, I'm working, 5 days a month, and that's enough to cover, half my rent or whatever, and then the other half I would be doing something else. I worked on dive boats. I worked on, charter boats as crew, just to make my bills, and that also kept me in the water. So that was another reason why I would do it. So nice.
I don't know. I had something which I call a problem of choices, because by the time I finished school, I had 3 jobs in my hand, really good ones, and. But I remember when I came to Full Sail, I made a deal with myself that I'm not going to compromise on what I want to do first. And I first wanted to get into learning how to make big records and to be with a big camp, which was super successful. So I had great 3 jobs. Okay, so I didn't have to go onto any couch. I knew that. But then I got the offer at the same time. I was poached in by my mentor at that time, who's a heavy hitter in the business, and he said, move to New York. So I was going to take up a gig in San Francisco at a beautiful post facility. And so I was torn a little bit, because here was something that they were going to do my visa. I was going to get a paid job right after school, which is a good thing. But now I have to go to New York and get a gig where I was told there's going to be no job, no internship, no money. And my then mentor said, but just come to New York. And I did just that. So I went to New York. I camped out with one of my cousins who was studying at Columbia University. And I parked with them for a little bit. But I did not compromise. And that I owed it to myself and my family, because if I was coming here to do something and achieve something, then I have to make it work no matter what. So I went for where my heart was. And that's where I started out, and I have never regretted it.
I was going to do the short version of that, which was, it helps if you know who you are and what you want, and try to focus on that, and then also be comfortable with change, because those values will change too. I don't want to make assumptions about people in this room or watching online, but if you're young and single, it's very different to then maybe getting married and then maybe having kids. Your values and priorities will change over time, and that's okay, because you can then change the situation you are in. Nothing's set in stone, nothing's permanent. You can make a change. did it in my job. I was traveling a lot at first, so I decided to stop doing as much of that. I saw new bosses come in. I don't know if this is going to work out so good. I might want to try and find another position at this point. And looking back, those were good decisions, right? So just be comfortable with change.
How you doing? I'm part of the recording arts program. My name is Matthew Miller. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. My question is, you mentioned a little bit that if you're walking across the stage and you don't know what you're doing, you're thinking what next, you kind of missed a really pivotal point of going to school here. And also that you mentioned it's okay for like your scope or your focus to change and where you want to go. My scope has changed. I'm not quite sure what I want to do anymore, but I know what I previously wanted to do. It's not that. At what point in your degree program or at what point in life, like, are you comfortable with knowing where you need to go and what you need to do? When is it too late and when is it too early? Or
It's never too late to change. I've changed several times. Well, once when I was a student here, once when I got laid off because the company closed, once when I had to close the company that I owned because it wasn't making any money. And again, just over a year ago, I decided I wanted to learn something different. And I took a temp job making way less than normal just to learn something different because I wanted to, expand my resume and do whatever. You don't have to do the same thing for the rest of your life. That would be pretty boring, I think, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe some people love it. I think almost everybody in the Hall of Fame that I know has changed some focus at some point, So to answer your question, it's never too late, but before you make that change, if it's your choice, before you make that change, prepare yourself and make sure that you know where you're going to go. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Maybe a slightly different spin on it, right? I've read somewhere once it takes about 7 years to be an expert in something. There's only so many times you're going to get 7 years, right? You're going to maybe 10 goes at something, different things, right? So think about that, right? If you've been doing something a long time, maybe you might try something different, and
Right.
you're going to so many goes at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I think also looking at the fact that you have so many great mentors here, your teachers, to kind of dive in, and you can ask yourself, what makes you excited? And that will give you a little bit of idea of what to go into. And then I think something you were mentioning earlier, which was really smart, is that because you don't just have one thing set in mind, now when you go to apply, you can look across the board and you can play for a little bit too,
Right.
until you kind of hone in on what that thing is that you really love. So the fact that you asked the question is step number one. You're going to be fine.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. That's great advice.
How you doing? My name is Ruben Dukes, known by Coach Dukes. I'm in the MFA program. I heard internship about 1 or 2 times. Can you discuss more the importance and the connections that you can get into internship in the business of entertainment?
Sorry, I didn't get that clearly. What's the question again?
He's asking about the importance of an internship and what you can get out of it.
Oh,
Yes.
Well, for me, it opened other doors. I mean, it basically opened the door, and it got me in. And then I worked. I was lucky. I worked with a new film company, which is now, I think, the largest film company here in Orlando. Wow. And when I interned there, it was just the 2 principals and then an office manager and then me. And so it put me in, because of what they were doing and what they wanted to do, and the owner of the company, we were friends. We both liked adventure stuff, so he was doing stuff like, we were doing stuff in the early days of the Discovery Channel and things like that. So we were, for me, it opened doors. It was put me in the place where I wanted to be, and hoped, eventually, would lead to other, obviously, avenues. And that's kind of what, and I think when you do internships, you want to make sure that that's the internship that you take, if you're going to take one, it's going to help your career. You don't want to be taken advantage of. So you kind of have to watch that a little bit, because I've heard, horror stories, I guess, with interns and all that. So, so I think when you take it on as if it's a real job, and treat it like it's a job. Some of them are paid, some of them aren't, and in my case, it wasn't. But when we went out on shoots, they would make sure I got paid. So I may not, when I was in the office and helping, prep cameras and things like that, I may not have been getting paid. But when we went out on the shoots, like, we would, they would make sure I got something. So, I mean, just be careful. That's all I can say.
From the tech side, we see a bunch of interns every summer. So it's maybe a little bit different to some of these other programs, right? But the difference is that some of these kids are going to school for years, and they'll do a different one each summer. They'll go to Apple, Google, Facebook, whatever. And they're just trying things out, which is good. They're good for them. But you guys are in accelerated programs, so you're going to be out and have more experience than them even sooner. So you can take advantage of that too. Yeah.
How are you, lady and gentlemen?
Hello.
Thank you for sharing. For each one of you, including Katie, what would you say is the superpower that allow you to be standing right there where you are?
Being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Invisibility.
I don't like networking. I don't want to meet people all the time, but you do it. I jump into fires. I try hard things. That's it.
So I've learned.
That's really hard.
I'll take that one. So I'm really good at helping people recognize their potential so that they can achieve greatness. That's really what my life is about, and that's what I want to do. That's the encore.
That's
and
amazing.
So for me, that's pretty crystal clear.
That's awesome.
He's like, shut up.
I know. I'm like, that's a great answer.
I spent a little bit of time. I teach this stuff, man.
I think just being prepared, for whatever comes your way. For me, as an underwater cinematographer, when I wasn't working, I'd be out shooting somewhere, something. I did student films. I worked with, students out in LA, and I would help out if they had underwater shots. I would take those jobs just to, keep my experience level growing. And I even did reality shows and things like that. But on my downtimes, I would be out in the water somewhere.
So I think two things for me that I've learned myself to take myself out of my comfort zone pretty fast. Okay, and I've seen that as a trait, and I think I'm an innovator and an entrepreneur first today. And so that has led me into situations that I was not prepared for before. Okay, but I'm committed to come out of it and be successful. But at the same time, what has been a joy, not just for me, but for a lot of us in our company, is that we offer opportunities at different levels, and we trust people that we bring in. So, without holding any, no judgment before you get somebody in. If somebody's keen to come in and try out with something, and I think that's been so rewarding for us. More than anything else, I think that I have learned the most. So we have got a lovely young team, and I don't know what I would do without them, because they are the innovators, and my job is actually just to see that they get to do what they get to do. And today, that's what we are, a platform to make sure that if there's great talent, it's our job and service to make sure that we let the rest of the world know. So very simply, and that has only happened is because, like my mentors and others who have trusted us and myself, we have extended that to others. And with every relationship, you have to give it a shot. What if it doesn't work out? It's okay, but you have to give it a shot and to practice. And even like the other young man from the recording arts program said, to make decisions is also a practice. So instead of postponing something, sometimes it's okay to take on something and it not working out. It's fine. It's okay. And I've learned that a lot. and I'm glad that I did. And yes, so to offer opportunities, to make opportunities, have young people come in, that has been so rewarding, not just for us, for everyone within our company.
I don't know if I would call them superpowers, but the two things I think that have done well for me is, one, I can get along with anybody. Like, literally, it's almost impossible to find somebody that I can't get along with, at least for a short period of time, right? And the other thing is I have, over time, developed the ability to learn quickly from my clients as to what they like, what they prefer, as far as the audio work goes, right? So if I work with somebody one time, the next time it'll be a little easier, and then third time will be even easier, you know, and then down the road, I already know what they want before they say anything, you know? Like I said, I don't think there's superpowers. You can train yourself to do that, but definitely has helped me.
I would say for me, it's that it's evolved over time, to be honest with you, right? When I first came into education, it was saying yes to every project that came across the table so that I could prove myself that I'm fun to work with, I can collaborate, I can produce, I can vision, I can be there on time too, like really those simple things. And as time has evolved and I've changed in my positions, it's not about saying yes anymore, right? It's about bringing other people into projects and passing things on. And but the bottom line is that I'm very passionate about my field, so I read about it, I watch biographies about it, I geek out with people about it, right? And so I just kind of stay embedded into it because it makes my heart really, really happy. So, but yeah, it's not just one superpower, it changes over time, and it should, because we evolve. So this has been a wonderful hour with all of you. Thank you so much to the panel for being here, for all of you for being open-minded. Take some time today, reflect on today's session, think about what the future looks like for all of you and what you can do now to make sure that you move into the industry you want to move into. Have a good day, everyone.